at the Museum at FIT and a member of FIT's Sustainability Council. I'm pleased to introduce my colleagues Melissa Marra-Alvarez and Lorenza Wong, who will be discussing the intriguing topic of fashion farming. Before we begin, please feel free to add any questions you have in the chat, and we will address those at the end. Melissa Marra-Alvarez is Curator of Education and Research at the Museum at the Fashion Institute of Technology. She is co-curator of the upcoming MFIT exhibition Food and Fashion, which will open in 2023. And her previous exhibitions include Minimalism, Maximalism, Force of Nature, and she co-curated Head to Toe, which is currently up, and Fashion and Politics. Her research interests lie in the intersections between fashion, the natural sciences, and sustainability, as well as new perspectives in the study of fashion as visual culture. She holds an MA in Museum Studies, Fashion and Textile History from the Fashion Institute of Technology. Lorenza Wong is a textile consultant and an adjunct professor of textiles at FIT and Parsons School of Design, the New School. Lorenza is known to be a highly creative and technical textile innovator with a passion for sustainable textiles. With more than 30 years of industry experience and achievements as a fashion and apparel executive, with expertise in global raw material sourcing, fabric research and development, textile innovation, and driving product lifestyle management. Lorenza is dedicated to creating the availability and accessibility of local natural raw materials through regenerative farming. In her various positions as the Vice President of Raw Materials and Operations for both Ralph Lauren Children's Wear and Raw Materials Procurement for the Ralph Lauren brand. Lorenza was accountable for all raw materials sourcing, managing fabric qualities across divisions, supply chain efficiencies, lead time reduction, and cost of goods reductions while optimizing the overall purchasing strength of the company. Lorenza holds an MS in Textile Science from Cornell University, an MS in International Fashion Marketing with a focus on sustainability from Glasgow, Caledonia, New York College, and a BS in Textile Design from Philadelphia College of Textiles and Science. And without further ado, I'm going to leave you in the hands of these very talented and capable ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for that great introduction. And thank you to you and the Sustainability Council for inviting us here to have this conversation today. Lorenza, hi. Thank you so much for being here today to talk to us about your project, The Fashion Farmer, which is a not-for-profit farm based in the Philippines that was started to initiate an ease of access to local materials, right? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Well, at the Museum at FIT, as Colleen mentioned, I'm co-curating an exhibition on food and fashion. And so I've been looking at some of the connections between food, fashion, and farming. And so I'm very excited to be talking to you this afternoon about this incredible project that you've embarked upon. So I thought we could start maybe by just if you can tell us a little bit about what is the Fashion Farmer, and what about your background that led you to start this incredible project?
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Colleen, and to all the FIT community for inviting me here. It's really a pleasure to be with all of you to share my story. So, Colleen has already mentioned that I'm currently an adjunct assistant professor at the Department of Textile Development and Marketing, and focusing on teaching students to learn about textiles and materials, which I'm really very passionate about. So maybe I could start my slide and to share about what Fashion Farmer is all about.
Yes. You've been prepared an incredible presentation, so let's view it.
Okay. Sorry, I think you can see my slides. Yeah. Yes. All right. You can see my slides, Melissa. Is it good?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. All right. So yes, Fashion Farmer was an extension of my thesis research, and it is built on a model of regenerative agriculture, providing sufficient fiber crops to meet the needs of both global clients and artisans, and at the same time, really empowering and incentivizing the local farmers of the community for employment opportunities, as well as enriching and replenishing the local soil supplies on the farmlands by bringing back this fiber called Avaca, which is a native plant of the Philippines, which is also a traditional fiber of Filipino artisans. So here, as you can see from my background, the emphasis on loving the abaca is a plant that will be a good soil health type of plant, is also an ability to bring traditional textiles in the Philippines by the use of these fibers. So this picture was taken in June 2019, wherein 40,000 seedlings of abaca was provided free, of course, by the Department of Agriculture. And really the goal in the farm is to do intercropping while planting this fiber for the textile industry. So this is a collaboration, Melissa, and it all started with the land. This was in 2016, land that was inherited from their ancestors. It was a land that was used for grazing cattle, but was left idle for many, many years until island harvest. On the left is the picture of the barren land in 2016, which island harvest really started in their cacao journey from the seed itself. They really wanted to raise the bar by aiming to produce organic, fine flavored cacao and chocolate, and thus opted to go for the seed to bar narrative. The prevalent mindset at that time was a basic cacao production. On the right is the farm in 2019, and today the farm has 15,000 cacao plants in 37 varieties, 3,000 coconut trees, about 18,000 abaca plants in 2 varieties, 1,000 pineapples and other trees, like annatto seed trees, jackfruit, mangosteen, cashews, and of course there's a thriving vegetable garden as well as a chicken farm as well. And it continues. It was really important that the cacao plants have adequate shade while growing, which led to all this intercropping by island harvest. So just to show you the farm, this is taken in late of 2019, where grafting is, and you can see the farm is with the cacao primarily in here, and the women, they're doing grafting, which is the preferred method of vegetative propagation for cacao. Grafting is a skill that allows farmers to choose the qualities they want on their trees, and it also reduces the expense related to sourcing cacao trees. And actually, usually the men do the grafting, but in this island harvest farm, the women were taught how to graft. So, like I said, it was a collaboration. Fashion Farmer collaborates with Island Harvest in 2019. And you may say, why abaca? Well, it's a great intercrop plant for cacao, and it's also indigenous to the Philippines. And abaca is actually in demand, and the Philippines is the biggest exporter of abaca in the world. So Fashion Farmer's mission is really to be purposeful, to really give back to the planet based on what we have taken and to make it better. And agriculture represents really the best choice that we have of mitigating and ending this climate crisis. And actually, as a textile professional, it was really necessary, especially for my vision and my passion, is to go back to the soil. And why regenerative farming? Well, it's actually synonymous to carbon farming, where a set of practices that builds organic matter back into the soil. And for me, it really resonate because my biggest interest is to restore soil health. And to regenerative farming, it actually stores more water and draws more carbon out of the atmosphere. Just a little bit of background of where the farm is. It's in the Philippines, and this is the map of the Philippines, and you can see the highlighted in red called Marinduque Island is where the farm is. So it's an island within an island. The farm elevation is actually 330 meters above sea level in a 40 acres land. So the farm is not a flat land. So it's a little bit of mountain area. So you have to do a lot of climbing, but so the farm is mountainous, but most abaca is grown in the other parts of the provinces in the Philippines. And actually, abaca is quite new for this area. It's known for a coconut plantation. Okay. So here it is. For if you're not familiar what's Avaca, well, here's my introduction. Avaca means cacao. It's actually technically referred to as Musa textilis, or known as Manila hemp. It is a bast fiber, and it's actually a strong natural fiber. Abaca is quite sturdy and resilient plant, requiring no pesticides or extra water. Sometimes I think there's a confusion that they think that abaca is like regular hemp that we're familiar with here in the United States. But as it looks, abaca is on the top of this slide, and the bottom is cacao. So Abaca promotes the biodiversity and prevents soil erosion, which is actually indigenous in the Philippines, and however, it is in limited supply. Abaca is actually biodegradable and replenishes itself through suckering, so it's actually not so difficult to grow. It consists of mostly cellulose, pectin, and lignin. It is material that replenishes itself through suckering. It can grow as far as 10 to 20 feet high. You may say, well, what's Abaca for? We have not, maybe not familiar, but I'm sure we've seen a lot of products that are familiar to us that uses Abaca. For example, the picture on the right is ropes and twines. That's where most of Abaca is being used. Primarily also used in tea bags, used for tea bags, as well as currencies for Japanese currency or other currencies and banknotes. And it's actually physically used for fibers for handicraft products. And actually, during the pandemic, there was a resurgence of wanting to use more abaca because it's used for surgical masks. It's a great fiber for non-woven textiles as well. As you can see, abaca is actually known for use for fiber. It's fiber to use for handicrafts. So just a little bit of a background on how they look. So this is the banana plant and abaca because it kind of looks the same. Actually, they're related. They're cousins. They look very similar, but but the difference is banana. We have this fruit that we love. I love bananas, and you can eat it. All right, and but in abaca they do have some kind of fruit, but it's not to be eaten. Primarily, abaca's use is for fiber. Any of its waste and the seeds that you get from the fruit becomes something that's used for the food industry. It's also very important to know that banana has this kind of disease that can infect the abaca plant. So although they're related or are cousins, it is not advisable that they be planted side by side. They require at least 10 meters apart. Abaca fiber looks exactly like this hanging. There's a handful of weavers in the area, but with the lack of these fibers, they have to get it from neighboring provinces outside of their community. So we hope that this farm will be able to provide supply for the weavers that are in the community. So to create an ecosystem, it's important to have varieties in the farm. On the upper left picture, as you can see, propagated seedlings of abaca and cacao ready to be planted. And then there's other varieties in the farm, such as the chicken coop and lemongrass, ginger, turmeric, eggplant, and pepper. In August of 2019, prior to really planting all of the abaca, since they grow so easily, we've engaged a community, which are the wives of the farmers, primarily to make and sell their craft. This is an invitation for the women of the community to just share their talent and be able to join in opportunities of what the women in the community can give back. And we gave them a challenge of just let us know what you can do, and some by using local materials in the community. So some baked, some created some crafts. So this is how we found that there's a few women that are really into craft making, but with the lack of raw materials. Some of them made cleaning brooms out of palm, and some made arrangements of local plants that they have in the community. And some actually wove mats using also from raffia and plants from palm trees. which actually grows everywhere in the community. While we were also ready for planting, I had an opportunity to reach out to a former supply chain partner when I was in the corporate world who uses actually Avaca and developed the textile weaving for a brand called Question, which is in Switzerland. And actually, it is made of 100% Avaca fiber. On the left is the fiber itself, and they had me try this garment, and I wanted to understand the drape of this fabric because it's usually very stiff, but this is the 100% Avaca fiber that they've innovated for almost 2 years. But it's pretty much for use for industrial purposes, such as this brand or trademark actually owned by Question, which is Banana Tex. So it's actually that garment was actually used, or that fabric on that garment is used for bags and accessories such as backpacks. During that time as well, reaching out to the Philippine Textile Research Institute, which is the governing body for all of the research that can go into textile in the Philippines, for possible future collaboration and research on the processing of Avaca, because the interest is to be able to use Avaca as yarn suitable for the textile industry, for the apparel industry. Some of the development that the Philippine Textile Research is doing is blending Avaca with cotton as another textile that can be used by the local industry and local designers. So just to continue on, the farm thrives no matter what. Once you plant something, they just keep growing once they're being taken care of by the farmers. COVID did not hit this area specifically until September of 2020. So even though there's COVID in the capital city of Manila, the farm continued to thrive. And simultaneously, while we're talking about cacao and Avaca, there's also pineapple being grown. And it really just creates biodiversity in the farm. And as farmers, it is best to have a variety of crops year round, creating a sustainable environment. And also, this is what the community eats and are able to sell in the marketplace. So, and also just why it's important, because pineapple is also an opportunity to be used as a product for the textile industry. This happens to be the banana that we can eat, but there's also another variety of banana that's specifically used for fiber only that is also in the farm. Well, I think being a passionate person into textiles, the next progression, since there's all a farm and vegetable and a lot of floral forages that we're doing as well, and planting different types of flowers, is a progression towards natural dye. Indigo was started to be planted simultaneously with all of the varieties that I've already mentioned, but actually the main goal of having indigo is really to help for the biodiversity of the soil, because actually indigo is a great nitrogen fixer and it allows to return significant carbon to the soil. So as much as for my goal, I would like to do this as a natural dye for sure for Avaca. It is good for the farm just to create a good soil health, as well as it's actually a good feed for livestock. So a lot of multi-purpose for this indigo plant. So in September that was September 2020, and this is, but the pandemic already started then. So there was a lockdown and quarantine even in this countryside. So farmers had to kind of not be able to work on the land for quite some time. But by the time November, they were able to do some work. However, by the time December came in, the province or the island was devastated by 4 back-to-back hurricane or typhoon that, here in the United States, we call them hurricane, but in the Philippines, we called them typhoon, and it was every week for the last 4 weeks in December. Category 2 typhoon has hit the countryside with winds of 93 to 110 miles per hour. Yes, this is after the farm survived the typhoon, but there was over a month of cleanup as well as rebuilding because some homes were destroyed. However, what remained quite positive, what everybody saw, was how strong the Avaca plant, because it hardly got affected by those 4 typhoons that hit the island. There are quite a bit of cacao and coconut that were damaged. Many of the banana trees was devastated. A banana tree, once it's break, you can no longer use them. You have to uproot them and replant, and it takes a year or so to get them going again. But the abaca, even though it breaks, you just cut them and they sucker, meaning they replenish through suckering. So it's easy to grow them. So I think in hindsight, even though that this was a total devastation in parts of some of the harvest, however, this really proved to the farmers that abaca is a strong plant, and it was a way of convincing everybody to consider planting more abaca. It is
So resilient.
Yes, it's a resilient plant, and this was a good way to just tell them, let's go for it. So, well, farmers always wait for the next calamity as much as they're always prepared. And I think another good thing that happened, came out from that hurricane, is they started to create windbreaks in the farm by planting bamboos, because they need to enclose in order to reduce the amount of air coming into the open area of the farm. So a lot of lessons learned when calamities come in. So the farm continues to thrive, and they just keep planting again. So abaca is about to be harvested, because the planting in the beginning was around September of 2019, and this is now February 2021. The abaca is ready to be harvested. It takes about 18 months to harvest abaca. However, while waiting for the harvest for all of this, cacao is also being harvested now. It was planted in 2016. In 2021, cacao is already ready to be harvested as well. And here it comes. This is one of the first harvests for the cacao. And in spite of losing some of the crops, they still managed to harvest some of the cacao. And in order to compensate any of waiting period, because of the chicken farm, it helps them sustain their livelihood through selling the eggs. And these are like organic eggs that they are able to sell in the marketplace every day. So. So I'm saying that, COVID was quite rampant in the area, but despite the pandemic, the farm was given a grant, this is the cacao to chocolate processing equipment, granted by the Department of Trade in November 2020. You may say, like, what did many of the farmers did being inside? Many of them started to learn how to process chocolate and didn't realize that they would be given this machinery in a more production way, rather than just doing it in their home kitchen. So this was a very exciting time during that period when everything slowed down in the province. So this was the first production of the cacao beans to tablea. Tablea is a bowl of ground up cacao beans, which is usually heated and combined with water for making chocolate. And now the farm is actually being able to do other products such as cocoa nectar syrup, turmeric butter, cocoa butter, and cocoa powder. So they've been able to get more product out of just the raw material that they are harvesting. So I wanted to share a little video of the farm and how a community can thrive when you give them the opportunity.
That's what the Bible promises, that the Lord will prosper us in the land that He has given us. Island Harvest is a proof of concept. It's a model farm. We didn't want to just teach people. We didn't want to just give people help. We wanted to show them and do it ourselves so that there is a success story. So we needed to give them something to see so that they would believe and also do what needed to be done. So as a proof of concept, we've got 3 legs, so to speak. One is the farm, where we've chosen cacao and abaca as our primary crops because these are very good to intercrop with coconuts, which abound here in Marinduque. Secondly is the pagawaan, where we teach them how to now make products out of the produce so that they can value add and therefore also add to their income. And thirdly is the hosting, like I said, where they can now host people in their farms who might want to stay and earn also. So Camillo, siya ang ama ni Criselda, na siyang gumawa nitong mga tsokolate natin, kasama si, of course, si Marilyn. So ngayon, Camillo, ngayon na nakita ninyo na mula sa cacao na inyong tinry, pwede palang gumawa ng tsokolate at saka pwedeng gumawa ng alumin. Ano pakiramdam nyo?
Kaya po, na nakikita ko na naghirapan ko ng pagtanim hanggang sa paggawa nito. Natikman ko na lahat.
Once we've been able to do that, we also want to amplify the good that's being done in these communities by creating the proper platform for that. So Island Harvest to us is that platform. And so what we want is that this be duplicated and in other communities here in our island. For that's when we will see the fruition of really what we stand for, which is seeing harvest all across the island of Philippine.
So the abaca is the other story. Well, we're about to harvest. These are now the people that will be training. And what's so exciting, usually training, the farmers have to go somewhere else, but because of COVID and still some kind of quarantine during this time, the trainers came to the farm. So there was an on-site training. They had an opportunity to assess the size and measurement of the how the plants are growing. And the Department of Agriculture did come to the farm to train the farmers. So actually training began in June of 2021 for fiber extraction. So despite the pandemic, we had to pull out those abaca. This is the trainer showing the locals, the farmers, on how to harvest the bark of the tree. And this is where you can get the fiber. So what, so abaca tuxing is what is the method of stripping or separating the layers. So this is the bark of the tree. They call this the tuxi, which is from the inner layer. The tuxi contains the primary fibers. So the primary fiber, the first layer will be used for ropes and twines, and the inner layer contains the secondary fibers and the pulpy material used for textiles. And actually what's interesting is the instrument they're using for pulling the fibers is from from the trunk. It's a horse bone instead of a regular knife. They felt that this was more safe and easy to handle. Here is the abaca as it gets stripped. It is being stripped after it was tuxied and pulled from the leaf sheet. It has to be stripped and scraped to remove the pulp further. So it's a very labor-intensive process. It's a lot of handwork, but this is how the abaca looks after stripping, and it's required to be dried before it's stored. So it could either be sun-dried, air-dried, or mechanically dried. The length of the abaca is about 60 centimeters long, which is about more or less 23 inches long. And that's the harvest. And this is actually the first harvest after that training that they've done in 2021, the latter part of 2021.
Lorenza, how long did it take to process that first harvest of the Ibaka?
Well, basically, it's just pulling it out. I think it took a few weeks, days, depending on, there are sections of the land that are ready for harvest. Not everything is harvested all at the same time. The way Avaca was planted was you took various space and you kind of space it out so that there's only enough farmers that are able to do this. So I think we were able to schedule the way harvesting is done, since it was done in kind of like a timely way of doing this. So these are just a close-up of the fiber. I think the other thing that was exciting for what's happening in the farm is now the farm is moving into agroforestry, which allows the locals to, even the local people in the province, to come and visit and to see what this specific members of the community in this area have created. They've created a thriving community through farming and creating a sustainable livelihood for them and for their families. And through this farm stay, the women of the community is able to share their talents in cooking and basically what they've harvested in the farm daily, which really gave the women confidence and much empowerment in the community.
It's wonderful.
So this is the overview of the farm, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share this to all of you. Okay.
Well, thank you so much. It's so amazing to see how far along the farm has come in 3.5 years, right? And then with challenges like the natural challenges you had and the pandemic and everything, it's so amazing. There's been such a push now for a regenerative approach to farming, and even for like sort of farming in terms of fashion, right? Because it goes a step beyond organic farming, right? It improves biodiversity, it improves soil health. And so what I took from what you presented was that it seemed like your approach to this regenerative method of farming happened very organically. And so I guess my question to you was, what was your aha moment when you decided, oh, this is the way to go, this is the most beneficial?
Yeah, I think when this all started out, I think, and a lot of my background also has to play around with this because, I'm a textile individual who is aware of what we've taken from the environment and where a lot of the fibers come in. And I think in order to even have a thriving farm, there's no way that this farm can thrive if the soil health is not strong. And I think that was the focus of this farm. And to your point, it became organic because, initially the beginning was just farming, thinking we would keep monocrop but it didn't make sense because farmers wait. When you wait, what do? You can't be idle. You can't be depending on something that's going to grow, because like coconut, it takes 7 years to get any harvest. So in the meantime, what do you do in a community? So I thought it was really made sense to have an ecosystem. And that's why maybe while I'm talking, another plant is growing. And so when depending on the timetable, you have to create an opportunity wherein you're always harvesting something, that there's something moving. And that's why livestock is so important to create the space of this kind of biodiversity in a place. And I think now I think the farmers could not believe their eyes that they've done something, even them. And that they're so powerful. They're the ones who are really doing this. And I think it's just that whole focus of, making sure that, hey, while you're waiting, let's do something. And I think, and a lot of the farmers in this community, they didn't have to own huge land. Many of this is a backyard farming model. So as long as you have a backyard and you're planting, even in their own backyard, they're having not one type of crop. So I think it really says something about the holistic approach to a
What
my
was
sister.
the farmer's reaction when you first suggested this method? Because it's not what they were used to, right?
Yeah, they said we were insane. They said we were insane. Are you nuts? You're not even farmers. And yes, you're right. We're not even farmers. Um, because as a coconut farmer, it's very different when you're farming rice. There's also rice plantation in the area. In coconut farming, you just kind of wait, hang out, not a lot of work. The reason why Avaca is not planted because it's so hard to harvest. All right, you can see the whole pulling. Maybe it looks easy because I'm showing you the picture, but it does have a lot of work. But I think that the mindset has changed because you can't just plant and expect that a raw material without extending the value of a plant. Like from coconut, there has to be other things because the competition would be very difficult. And that's why this community, the focus on this community, this is a very struggling community. All right, many of the young people has left the farm. A lot of old farmers have been left. So it was important to create a space wherein you can entice young people to come back to the farm, the children of the farmers to come back and return to this community. And now you can see how exciting people are because now this farm, as a matter of fact, was certified as a teaching farm for cacao planting. And now all of a sudden, yeah, now, and there's a cooperative. I wanted to mention that there is a cooperative in this farm. And like I said, all the farmers are a member of a co-op and they don't have to have big land. As long as they're farming in their backyard, they're all members, as long as they adhere to the requirement of the cooperative. And I think there's a bit of good news coming that I believe we're waiting for processing equipment for some of the abaca for at least the industrial part of creating this raw material. So
That's great. And Lorenza, have you seen sort of renewed interest since you've been operating with younger generations, like turning their, have you seen that happen yet? Because it seems like such a lively and interesting, space that it just from the photos you've shown, it seems so exciting.
yes, I think even the farm had to pivot. All right, it initially was meant to do as a training site. That's why you probably said, "Oh, why it looks like an Airbnb or a farm stay." We called it because due to pandemic, many of the classes and programs to do training on farm grafting and etc. on cacao had to be put on hold. This was the opportunity. Let's just create a space wherein we can, because there's a lot of vegetables, and what do you do with all the food? Maybe it's best to just cook something and start selling and get people to come for the day. I think during the pandemic, it was helpful to, hey, you can still visit a farm. We still have social distancing and open space, but it was a way of inviting them in to see what you can do in a farm community. Or like by looking at this with the young people, they made it cool. We made it, the place was made it cool. So we wanted to create like an opportunity, like farming is actually cool again. So yeah, there was now an interest because of how you can make it fun for them of being in a farm and teaching them. You show them, you explain to them what it's like to farm in a intercropping scenario because they're so familiar with monocropping in there.
Right, exactly. It's such a different mindset. And what about your relationship with the artisans? Can you talk a little bit more about how you forged that relationship and how that works?
Yeah, the other thing was supposed to be bringing, I think what's the exciting part is, although there's not an indigenous community in this farm, Abaca is used by many indigenous community outside of the province, as I highlighted in the provincial areas that Abaca is more in other parts of a more southern part. But I think there's a lot of interest in collaborating because my passion is working with various artisans in the country. Many of them were actually planning to start training and sharing their talents. And actually, because there's a weaving community in there that makes for home furnishings, but they wanted to encourage them to try others so that you can even uplift the understanding that Avaca is only used for this thing. So we wanted to change the image that Avaca is limited to handicrafts, but it could be so much more because of what the value of this fiber can give into a sustainable industry, right? Like what's going on in the fashion industry. So yeah, I mean, again, because of the pandemic, but we have a lot of artisans who really want to use Avaca and are excited about having this available to them.
Well, that's interesting. You know, and one of the things that we've been looking at when we've been working on this exhibition was that, you know, you have such clear connections, right, between food and farming. But you have equally clear connections between fashion and farming, right? You can look at a field and see your food being grown. You can also look at a field and see cotton, hemp, or natural dyes. And so because food and fashion are so intimately tied together, I guess my question to you is, how do you see fashion production fitting into the regenerative conversation, in particularly maybe even where Avaca is concerned?
I think, you know, what's so important here is here's a community that has the opportunity. I think it's so amazing, the ability to see the farmers, you know, by creating the space of knowing who has extracted this fiber. And a lot of the waste material, even of this fiber, will go to the food industry, that it's really a circular environment. And this is what we wanted to really focus on. It's this farm to fabric to food, farm to fabric to fashion, and create this circularity in this community. Really, my intention and interest with collaborating with the farm is to get this fiber into a processing for yarn for the textile industry, because I think for a country like the Philippines, who has 97% of Avaca exported outside of the country, I still question why our industry, like I said, we are void of earlier, that we are void of a true textile industry. We only have raw materials and we have garment production, but we have no textile industry. And I think it's important to resurrect this particular Avaca that's been in the country, that it grows so easily in many type of soil in the country because it's indigenous. And I think it's so it's a miss not to be able to give benefit to this aside from what it's currently known for. And I think this is a good replacement for many of the raw materials that are not a sustainable option for, especially for the artisans.
And so then on that question, where do you see, or where do you envision the farm being, or how it's operating in 5 years and in 10 years from now, ideally?
Well, I really hope that now we can have the opportunity to really find ways to process this fiber, do some research on using it more for creating yarns for the industry. It is being used for primarily for the paper industry. And so there's some synergies there that can be seen, but I think we have to have the help of an international community, as a matter of fact, even to give help to a country that's very much in need on this technology. And you know, in agriculture, technology is so key as well. But I believe that working together with a variety of stakeholders will hopefully help get this raw material into what it's supposed to be, and maybe part of the sustainable preferred raw materials or for the fashion industry, that we are so so concerned on what's going on in the sustainable space.
Sure, sure. And I guess I'll just maybe end with what might be some of advice you might have for students or makers of both food and fashion, or textile makers who want to go in this direction, or who want to be more sustainable, employ use materials that come from regenerative farms and such.
I think for me, when I started this, you know, I think I've always thought about this fiber, you know, I mean, I think what is so important is in whatever area you are in or working with, specifically I'm talking about this farm or where I want this fiber to come from, is really to use what's available. I don't think we should, of course, I like to bring anything new into a place, but there's also still something to say for being to use what's available and to make use of what the local community can do. And I think we have to be bold in our thinking. When I started to think about this, it was just, there's no way this is going to work, and not thinking that this can happen, 5 years later. And it continues. And I think the community is tight. I mean, being at FIT gave me more opportunity to know people, and even when I'm teaching, I'm starting to say like this can work. The more I focus on teaching my class with the textiles and materials, it makes sense. It just makes sense more and more that an idea cannot be just ignored just because. So I think for the younger generation, they're so fearless, and I think for them, they can extend their thinking, and I'm hoping that this will be something that they will be using as a future fiber, maybe as good as hemp even someday.
Yeah, it's so exciting to see all the possibilities of where it can go. And it's really just such a fascinating, amazing project. It's been so exciting to learn about it. I'm not sure if we're coming to the end of our time. I'm not sure if we have any questions from the audience, but maybe Colleen can let us know if we do.
Hi, well, thank you. That was really, really fascinating. I loved that presentation and your questions too, Melissa. We do have a question, and I actually wondered this too. Is Avaca waterproof?
Yes, it's actually, well, it has that property. It's antimicrobial. It has a water repellent properties. But that particular bag, when they developed, they added beeswax, as a matter of fact, to enhance the quality. But it has those amazing characteristics, being the plant itself. So.
Fantastic. It was so wonderful to hear about this. As I mentioned in the chat earlier, I didn't know anything about it until I spoke to you last week. So it's been a real eye-opener, and I think many people are learning about this fantastic fiber. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Colleen.
Okay, thank you, Lorenza. And is there anywhere where interested people can go to learn more about the Island Harvest Farm or the Fashion Farmer Project?
Yes, we have an Instagram. We're not very good at creating the website yet, but we do have an Instagram, and I'm happy to share that information if anybody will reach, or I can put it in the chat.
Yes, that would be great. I think, like I said, I think it's such a great resource, and just having you at FIT as someone students can go to, reach out to if they have questions or want to learn more about it. So I want to thank you again so much. It was a wonderful presentation, and I've enjoyed talking to you and learning about, like I said, this incredible journey that you're on. So thank you, Colleen, also for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.